Hello all, Game Methuselah. Want to talk a little bit about gaming diversity. Um, in the old gaming situation, there was not a whole lot of diversity in characters. There wasn't usually a lot of things allowed. Game masters were really stringent on making sure you had to run the appropriate characters. Now, they did that early on in D&D 0 because they had to have a certain dexterity, to be an elf, or a certain constitution, to be a dwarf. To be a paladin, you had to have a 17 charisma, so you can imagine rolling that on 3 dice and that stat, since you couldn't mix and match or anything. There were not a whole lot of paladins. And I think DMs felt that was the way it was supposed to be, because they're trying to fit in, so they were really restricting you. The concept of running an orc or something else would have been unheard of. But that's changing now. I ran in my Adventure League guild over at the guild house the other night, and Tom, the DM, ran a great game again, and it was really fun. And I'm looking at my party of 7 people, and I think 8 of them were monks. But the real difference was the fact that there was all these different races. There was a gnoll. It was a bugbear. And I kept thinking, how does the bugbear get in here? And then there was a lizard man monk. And I was like, okay. And then there was, I think she called it a dwarfling or a dwarfling or something. Basically, it was a halfling dwarf. And I think it was a halfling with a belt of dwarven kind. But I'm not really sure. Another monk, of course. But I kept looking at the diversity in characters, and I thought, this is really odd. But you know what? It all added to the game. It didn't detract. It was actually kind of fun. I could harass the bugbear because I kept thinking that, any bad thing he did, or momentarily he was going to do so. And the players got into their characters, and they enjoyed it a lot. And that creativity seemed to really be important and bring out more of the characters instead of stifling the characters. And I think that rewarding people for more interesting and unique characters is really good. I mean, I felt so proud of myself when I ran Mog years ago when we were playing D&D, Living D&D 3.5, and he was a half-orc barbarian monk who was a follower of Yondala because some halfling priest had convinced him that he should follow that god, and since he was a half-orc, that meant he was a halfling, so he was a halfling orc. It was dumb. But it worked fun, and I had a great time playing it. But years ago it was more difficult, and we had a great friend of ours. And his name was Joe Lane. He was an accomplished actor, great singer, dancer, did musicals, was in some really bad movies, but he loved theater. He was really excellent. He was sort of kind of like the Nathan Lane back then. I mean, as I see Nathan Lane now, I think of Joe Lane, and I think, God, I would hate to live on the difference in skill between the two of them. But the problem Joe had is, though everyone told him, I said, you're going to be the next Tom Bosley or Zero Mostel. He had done a funny thing that happened on the way to the forum, and he was fabulous. He wanted to be James Garner. He just didn't like the idea of not being the leading man. And he was not leading man material, which was sad to us because in retrospect now, I think you've found that a lot of these non-leading man characters have now become leading men in sort of a quirky way with this way that geek chic has come into the world. And I think that's great. I kind of wish he had been around long enough to remember that. But in our games, which is what we're talking about, he would always run the Mavericks. He'd run Bart Maverick. He'd run Brett Maverick. He'd run some other Maverick. And it's like, Joe, really? You've got to run Mavericks? I mean, this guy's super creative and super smart. Can't you come up with something kind of original? But Joe loved it. He always wanted to run Maverick. Well, I can't remember exactly how or why, but one day we showed up, and we're getting ready to game, and Joe brings out his new character, MaverOrc. And Don Hawthorne and I looked at each other and said, oh, God, please, Joe, don't subject us to this. MaverOrc? Really? Yes, that's what I want to run. I want to run MaverOrc. Okay. What are you going to say? You let him run MaverOrc. So it goes on for a while, and oh, man, we were merciless at picking. I was like, really, Joe? God, really? But one day, Don and I got together, and we're thinking, I guess Joe likes it, and it's kind of fun, and, his birthday's coming up. And then it dawned on us. being good bards, we thought, you know what? We'll give Joe a birthday present. So my friend Don and I sat down to make a little ditty here for Joe for his birthday about his character, MaverOrc. Now, I think Don Hawthorne came up with all the big words, but it wasn't hard to figure out what tune we were going to use. So quickly, we produced this little song, which my wife wants me to share with you now. So I beg your indulgence, but I will go ahead and give you this rendition. Da-dum. I better take a drink first. Who is the short green stranger there? MaverOrc is his name. Wild as the wind of Barad-dûr, stench is his companion, cruelty is his game. Town criers ring your bell, brute waddles run like hell. Mayhem is the sport he loves the best. Natchez to Numenor, kicking up guts and gore. MaverOrc is the scourge of Westernness. MaverOrc is the scourge of Westernness. And our friend Joe, who had this big barrel laugh, sat there mystified and then roared, fell off his chair laughing at the best gift that Don Hawthorne and I had ever given him for his birthday. He had the greatest time, and he kept running, well, you know, MaverOrc. I just thought I'd share this with you because I think the best thing to do is be accepting to all players who come into your game, no matter what they are or who they are, and want to enjoy and be part of the game. Because as a DM, that's your job. We miss you, Joe. Rest in peace. Fight me, devils, fight, for I hate peace. Game on.